The following is a special presentation of Fox 31 and our ongoing commitment to the military. The Fox 31 Problem Solvers, serving those who serve. Tonight, a Fox 31 Denver exclusive. We're taking you aboard a city at sea.
A little bit scary, but you get used to it.
This is an airport in the middle of a rough ocean.
Before joining, I had never even seen the ocean. It's pretty impressive, especially when you're out there and it's the only thing surrounding you is just thousands of miles of water.
The floating front line in the international attack on terrorism.
I do this because it keeps my family safe. It keeps people that don't even know me back home in Colorado safe.
Have a good day.
See what life is like aboard one of the most massive aircraft carriers on the planet. And get to know the well-trained Colorado sailors who call the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower home.
We have a hard job.
Traveling the world as they help protect it.
I always wanted to be a part of something that was just bigger than myself. It's a pretty cool job.
They are our heroes at sea, spending their life aboard the Ike.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this weekend when we honor our military heroes. I'm Jeremy Hubbard. This is a Fox 31 Serving Those Who Serve special, and tonight we're doing something a little different. We're coming to you from the flight deck of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Ike, a city afloat. Right now it's docked off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, but usually it is traveling all over the world. And some of the people on board are guys from Colorado, heroes who've given up everything, their lives, their jobs, their families, to come out here and serve their country. It is hard to overstate the awesome power of their office space. They work wherever this behemoth boat takes them, and it has taken them all over the world.
Good morning to everyone on the flight deck. Start to go aircraft. Start them up.
It is one of the largest warships on the globe, 24 stories high, 4.5 acres long.
So again, this is the giant garage that we have for the ship.
So big you can easily get lost.
That way is forward, so the front. That way is aft, which is the back.
All to transport man and machine over ocean and sea.
We just completed our 15th combat deployment.
To the places where the fight is.
We were gone from June 1st to December 30th.
And the places where the fight will soon be.
The real big job is going to be up on the flight deck.
And a 24-year-old man from our state.
My name is Britt Dunaway. I'm an ABF Airman 83 from Castle Rock, Colorado.
Is right in the middle of all the action.
My job on the ship is to fuel aircraft.
Manning a high-tech gas station for Hornets, Hawkeyes, and helicopters atop a flight deck that has been dubbed one of the most dangerous workplaces in the world.
A little bit scary, but you get used to it.
Britt Dunaway never saw himself here. Just a few years ago, he was a student at Douglas County High School and Castleview, uncertain about the future. Britt comes from a military family, and he liked the idea of seeing new places.
Be on a ship, travel around the world, it sounds like a blast. We've been to Marseille, France, we've been to Italy, Dubai, and Bahrain.
All the while, he's tending to those 70 or so aircraft that take off like a slingshot and land like a fast-braking car at a rate of one jet every minute. On the tarmac of this moving monstrosity, often in less than ideal conditions.
I'm a pretty adaptive person. The only thing that was really horrible was the heat over the Middle East.
In daylight and in darkness, it's his responsibility and everyone else's to make sure nothing goes wrong. Easier said than done when they're operating high-speed planes on short-length runways. But things don't always go right. In March 2016, a rare accident on the Eisenhower caught on camera. This E-2C Hawkeye was coming in for a landing, but that arresting gear didn't work. The wire snapped as the plane tried to land. With nowhere to go, the plane just dropped right off the side of the ship. Hearts were pounding until, unbelievably, the plane reemerged. A quick-thinking crew regaining flight, avoiding a collision with the ocean. 8 service members were injured when those wires failed, but amazingly, no one died.
This is the Ouija board. This is just the outlay of the flight deck.
Choreographing every takeoff, every landing, every function of this massive ship is definitely a puzzle.
The Ouija board is to scale. So everything you see on it, it's the same size as it would be outside.
And in the ship's cabin, you'll find the pieces, miniature planes laid out on a replica flight deck, so everyone knows where every plane is at every moment.
A big part of what we do is keeping the fight away from our shores, keeping it somewhere else. And I'm all about that because I want my wife and kids to be safe and secure, sleeping soundly at night.
Lieutenant Commander Daryl Heide of Aurora has one of the most critical jobs on the ship. He works in this top secret room. Our cameras aren't even allowed inside, and he's vague about his job description.
I generate power, I generate electricity, lights, propulsion, help launch airplanes, make sure stuff gets fixed. Other than that, I can't really talk about it too much.
Inside is where he helps maintain the Ike's 2 nuclear reactors. Those reactors create the steam that powers the ship's propellers, enabling it to move 35 miles an hour across the ocean. Another bonus of that nuclear power, the Eisenhower can sail for more than 20 years before it ever needs to refuel. And that nuclear energy provides the electricity needed to power everything that makes this miniature city function. And it really is just like a floating city. They've got stores, a chapel, a newspaper, a TV station, and yes, they've even got their own Starbucks.
So it just kind of gives you an idea of the size and scope of the ship.
But even with all those creature comforts, spend 7 straight months on board this ship, and there's so much about Colorado you long for.
I do miss it. No humidity and get all the seasons. It's really nice.
I definitely miss the mountains, and most places that you go are significantly more flat than Colorado.
And they all miss their families. But for Daryl Heide, that's part of the reason he's here in the first place.
It's never far from my mind. I have pictures of my wife and kids up at my desk, so they're a constant reminder of what I'm doing this for and why this is so important to me. I do this because it keeps my family safe. It keeps my friends safe. It keeps people that don't even know me back home in Colorado, keeps them safe. I do it because it's really important.
A lot of work to keep the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower afloat and moving through the sea. Now, we asked him what he misses most about Colorado. Of course, he said his family, but not too distant second, the Denver Broncos. When we come back tonight, our state's long and unlikely history with the Navy. Maybe you've heard of the USS Denver or the USS Colorado, but what about the USS Pueblo?
Tied our hands up behind our back and blindfolded us and took us out on the decks.
Meet the Colorado sailor held prisoner of war for nearly a year when the Pueblo was attacked and captured decades ago. It was one of the biggest stories in the world, and we'll have his first-hand account when Heroes at Sea, a Fox 31 Denver news special, returns after this. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on this weekend. We honor American heroes. I'm Jeremy Hubbard. We're here in Norfolk, Virginia. That's Chesapeake Bay behind me, and off in the distance, an aircraft carrier, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. We've been telling you the stories of some Colorado service members who helped make that ship run. It is a $5 billion behemoth, a mobile city at sea. It's also an airport at sea. Its flight deck, home to 70 airplanes. And as you can imagine, taking off and landing is no easy task. Docked at Naval Station Norfolk, the biggest naval installation in the world is an armada of warships. Some of the biggest, most powerful maritime machines on the planet, made of steel and rust and human resolve. But it's that giant aircraft carrier right there with the number 69 emblazoned on its towering island that means so much to a young man from Colorado. Petty Officer Second Class Alexander Vigil from Golden is one of the guys on the Eisenhower wearing a red shirt with a very difficult task.
What's not stressful about this job?
Those red shirts are in charge of weapons and ammunition on the F-18s that catapult off the ship's deck, headed for war.
The jet leaves off the pointy end of the carrier, and when that jet comes back slick, no weapons on it, you get a good feeling that you helped guys on the ground that needed our support.
We caught up with Vigil on solid ground inside this hangar at Naval Air Station Oceana.
So this is a F-18.
Where he showed us those Super Hornets he spends so much time working on and around.
I rarely take leave. I'm a workaholic, really.
That work ethic and patriotism is something the 26-year-old was quite literally born with.
Well, I was born September 11th, 1989. I was raised by my mother. Most of all the uncles on my mom's side of the family are prior Navy. So when I decided I wanted to join the military, the Navy was the first branch that came to mind.
96 and 128 are secured.
Before joining, I had never even seen the ocean. I love to travel though and get outside. Obviously, I love the outdoors from Colorado. It's pretty impressive. Especially when you're out there and it's the only thing surrounding you is just thousands of miles of water.
His higher education has come in 4 deployments around the world on the flight deck of the Ike, 6 to 7 months at a time out at sea.
Navy I think is where it's at. You got, sea, air, and land. You got the SEALs, you got aviation. You have all these different fleets and battle strike groups deploying at a moment's notice and just maintaining maritime security out there.
At a moment's notice, indeed. In emergencies, the ship, its air wing, its crew of thousands all have to be loaded and ready to depart within 72 hours. No easy task. But it's why they're constantly getting ready. At Naval Air Station Oceana, Air Operations handles more than 100,000 flights every year. That's one about every 6 minutes.
We come out here about an hour beforehand, and we pretty much set up the aircraft, start up, do their thing, and take off.
And making sure those planes are airworthy is a 21-year-old man from Colorado.
I'm from Denver, Colorado. I went to high school at Cherokee Trail.
Nathaniel Wilson is an outdoorsman and an athlete and hopes to one day be a Navy SEAL. But for now, at least, he's a Navy aviation machinist mate.
So you just kind of do a general inspection. I mean, you look at, there's certain things on the jet. You look for corrosion.
He works on the engines and fuel systems on the F-18s aboard the Ike. He's the eyes and ears for the pilots. Airmen like Nathaniel start up the engines, make sure everything runs smoothly, and then send the pilots off to fly. And when those $60 million aircraft come back, Nathaniel performs inspections to make sure nothing was damaged and the planes are still safe.
So like, for example, here you're looking for lumps, looking to see if there's any damage to those.
Maybe it's that adventurous Colorado upbringing and that desire to be an elite Navy SEAL that drives him to do a dangerous, often thankless, but truly critical job that can save a pilot's life and protect the people Nathaniel loves.
The best thing about being in the Navy, you have a purpose, more of a purpose. You're defending America. Everything we do here matters. It's pretty amazing. I'm 21 and I have responsibilities that most people don't get to have. Sometimes you just got to think about that and remember it when you're having like a bad day or struggling. But overall, it's an amazing experience and I wouldn't change it.
Landing a plane on a moving tarmac. No easy task, for sure. Still ahead tonight, the future of the aircraft carrier. Having a little fun testing out the technology on the Navy's newest addition to the fleet, a $13 billion carrier. But first, that Colorado man with a unique place in naval history, taken captive aboard a U.S. Navy ship that is currently being used as a tourist attraction in North Korea. When Heroes at Sea, the Fox 31 Denver news special, returns after this. Welcome back as we continue tonight from Norfolk, Virginia, just outside the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. That aircraft carrier, like so many other Navy ships, named for former U.S. presidents. But there are plenty of craft named for places near and dear to our hearts. For instance, the USS Colorado. It's a brand new Navy submarine, christened just last December. In fact, they used a bottle of Colorado wine to break across the bow when she was introduced. And of course, the USS Pueblo, named for the city in the southern part of our state. Now that ship has a unique role in U.S. history.
This one was taken just as soon as we come across the bridge of no return.
Alvin Plucker still bears the wounds 50 years later.
I have all kinds of emotional problems, most of us do.
Here in his basement in LaSalle, Colorado, a museum to that moment in history that changed his life forever. Pictures, medals, even the old POW uniform.
This was the one that we came home in or we would wear for special occasions.
From the time he was part of the biggest story in the world.
This is Pueblo, armed spy ship of the U.S. imperialist aggression forces captured by our seamen on January the 23rd, 1968.
Alvin was a quartermaster on board the USS Pueblo, an old research vessel named for the town in southern Colorado. It had been converted into a spy ship. He and a crew of more than 80 other sailors were conducting surveillance off the coast of North Korea, and the North Koreans were not happy about it.
We were all ordered below so that we didn't get shot.
After Alvin and his shipmates attempted to get away, the North Korean military unleashed bullets and bombs on the Pueblo.
And when it did, it killed the one sailor, and it injured about 13 others. Commander Booker says, well, I'm not going to sacrifice the whole crew. The next thing you know is they got torpedoes. They'll sink us to the bottom. He decided that, well, maybe we should surrender the ship.
Reluctantly, they did surrender. The ship was boarded by the North Koreans, and suddenly, there in the frigid waters of the Sea of Japan, those 83 crew members became prisoners of war.
Tied our hands up behind our back and blindfolded us and took us out on the decks. And we really froze. I remember that really. That was, your hands would stick to the deck and everything else.
The ship was docked in North Korea. The crew held hostage for nearly a year. They were beaten, tortured, and starved.
I'm pretty sure that in the first month and a half that I dropped from 135 down to 98. I was really bad shape.
What followed was months of negotiations between the U.S. and North Korea. Periodically, the POWs were paraded in front of reporters. So one of Alvin's fellow sailors came up with a comical idea to thumb their nose at their captors.
He decided that just when they're in a group and you're taking pictures, just to make sure that you put this somewhere in your picture. Just anywhere is all right, And the North Koreans got to looking at that, and they didn't suspect anything of it, just kind of curious.
When the North Koreans asked what the guys were doing with those middle fingers, the sailors said it was the Hawaiian good luck sign.
Oh, they bought it. They bought it. You could see guards and officers going up and down the aisle, Everybody and each other and everybody, they were we'd just die laughing.
That is until a Western reporter told the captors the true meaning of that hand signal. They weren't happy. What followed is what Alvin and the others called Hell Week.
They beat us from sunrise to sunset. They took one of the machine guns, which had a bayonet on it, and they put it right at my throat.
At 11:30 in the morning that day, the DPRK government announced that it would expel over 80 spies out of the Republic.
Then finally, on December 23, 1968, negotiators at long last resolved the crisis. Alvin and the other POWs were driven to the border with South Korea.
Finally, we ended up at the bridge of no return. And they finally told us right then, they said, you're going to go home.
Hard to believe next year it will be 50 years since the event that changed Alvin Plucker's life. He and his shipmates who are still alive are planning a big celebration. Where else but Pueblo, Colorado, the town that shares their ship's name. As for the Pueblo itself, it never came home. To this day, it's docked in Pyongyang, North Korea, a tourist attraction and propaganda tool they use against America to the throngs of tourists who visit every day.
Some of the guys said, why not send a bomb over there and just blow it up?
Like Alvin, that old ship maintains a unique place in naval history. It is the only active-duty U.S. vessel in enemy hands. A bit of a history lesson. Who knew Colorado had such deep roots in U.S. naval history? Finally tonight, most folks in landlocked Colorado often don't think about the role of the U.S. Navy in protecting our country, but the folks in this branch of service would tell you that 70% of the globe is covered in water. 80% of the world population lives within 100 miles of a coastline. Their role is crucial, and so is the role that so many Colorado service members play. And soon they'll be fulfilling that role on a futuristic ship. This is the USS Gerald R. Ford, lead ship in a brand new class of Navy supercarriers. She underwent sea trials just last month. The first newly designed aircraft carrier in 40 years. They're currently getting it ship shape. It's 3 times as powerful as the Ike, with a high-tech new radar system to track aircraft, and new electromagnetic catapults that should make launching aircraft off the deck even smoother. They tried it out with some dead loads a few months ago, and let's just say it was fun to watch. It made quite a splash, though they have had some problems working out all the kinks. At $13 billion, the Ford is the most expensive warship ever built, and the latest tool to help the U.S. Navy carry out its mission. and so many service members from Colorado working to help carry out that mission. I'm Jeremy Hubbard from Norfolk, Virginia. This has been a Fox 31 Serving Those Who Serve special. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.